what I've experienced the last 12, 14 months, particularly in this robust season, my joy was never challenged, meaning I had a holistic and I had an all-encompassing peace of mind. However, what I found is I had to protect it more by not confusing needed focus with needed anxiety.
Welcome to the Lead In Podcast, where we dive deep into genuine stories of leaders who've seized control of their journey. This podcast is brought to you by Lead Hub, your growth partner for the trades. And now, let me kick it over to our guy, Austin Lenny.
Guys, welcome to the Lead In Podcast. It was like I got the president. I mean, I spoke to 3 of his handlers through email, and then I finally get the legend. One of my favorite people.
We texted. I don't want to hear that crap.
One of my favorite people in the entire world. And when Aaron and I found out, so we have a list of like guests we want to get. And I'm scanning this 50-person list, and I'm like, what is Ed doing on there? And he's like, oh, yeah, I know Ed real well. And I'm like, what? I'm like, Ed has done so much for me. I was like, Recovery Brothers, too. I was like, dude, he was like, oh, that's such a small world. So we got the man, Ed Howie, in the house. How are you doing, sir?
Man, I am doing well today.
Dude, I tell you what, when you and I, we were chatting about our last year, when you and I have come from where we come from, meaning the trips that we have gotten to be, happy and through recovery and all that stuff, as much as we might lament about business or life or whatever's happening in life, I find so many days to just be absolutely so grateful to have the opportunity to even have the stresses of business.
Yeah. That is, gratitude is an amazing multiplier. And, it's interesting. I use the word robust to describe the last year or so. And it was robust in many ways. Interesting, it was robust in gratitude. Mm-hmm. That gratitude just wasn't necessarily cohabitating with fun. What I mean? It was work and sweat, and that's okay. Gratitude is not situational, in my opinion.
So this happens all the time, like all the time. I just interviewed one of my best friends that introduced me to Ben. The only reason why this podcast exists because I met Ben the day before I left for Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I hadn't talked to him in like 8 months. He had a rough year last year. This is one of my best friends. I play golf with him all the time, but we haven't talked. We had him on the podcast. And I said, the biggest issue with me in my life right now is I'm doing great things. I'm happy about where we're headed. I have great people around me, but I have no joy in my life anymore.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm letting the stresses of 50 employees and 5 businesses and 2 podcasts and coaching clients and all these things, I'm letting it just consume my every waking moment. And I promised myself a couple of weeks ago, I said, I'm going to start seeking more joy in my life because we can't spend our whole life being consumed by the things that we think we have to do, and realizing that with gratitude, we get to do all these things.
Well, that's interesting you say that because obviously you know me as the joy beast, and joy existed in my life before I stopped drinking, but 17 years ago it showed up in a whole different way because until then I struggled with finding peace of mind. And what I've experienced the last 12, 14 months, particularly in this robust season, is my joy was never challenged, meaning I had a holistic and I had an all-encompassing peace of mind. However, what I found is I had to protect it more by not confusing needed focus with needed anxiety. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That there were things I had to dig in and work in, and they were not the things that I would choose to do at this stage of my life, but there were things that were necessary. But I also had to accept them for what they were and realize that temporary might be the wrong word, but it was a season. And so I probably did more growing the last 3 or 4 months and realizing and truly realizing that joy is not an emotion. Joy is not a response to what just happened. I'll give you a great example. I woke up today, and I had been like intentionally like, and I hate this phrase, but creating more space for joy, being more intentional with joy. Like this week, literally, I felt like I turned the corner on some of the robustness. Okay. And we were just on a call with a blind connection from LinkedIn needing some marketing help. It happens to be a multi-million-dollar, a subsidiary or a brand of a multi-million-dollar Texas company. And in addition to getting to meet the manager of one of the brands, the chief marketing officer for the entire enterprise was on that call. And we had an incredible 1-hour conversation of getting to know each other and realizing that there's a lot of things that we could each help each other with. That did not change my joy before and after. Now, it was an incredible emotion, but that did not create joy in my life. That affirmed the joy in my life. Does that make sense? And it literally is funny that we're talking about this because literally now I did do the happy dance and I ran around the house and you're not going to believe who we just talked to. Okay. But that wasn't joy. The joy was there before. That was a response to the deal. But that response does make the joy even more real because for me, joy is peace of mind. And this was another situation of a door opening that I didn't have to bust through, given all the doors that I've been busting the last 4 months.
When I meet clients or I meet a customer or somebody that I'm coaching and you're talking to a young kid, whatever you're saying, right? And let's say I have a client who's writing a book right now. I got another client who's starting another business. They're doing all these things. And when they speak on said thing, I'm going to start a podcast, I'm going to start a business. They're speaking of the thing as if they need the thing to save them. I'm going to write this book because it's going to make me a bunch of money, or I'm going to write this book because it's going to change my life. And I go, but your life's perfect the way it is right now. And what I found, and kind of, I actually went on an 1.5-hour podcast today about addiction. First time I shared my story because I'm coming around where I'm going to write a book really soon about the addiction. I finally found the pieces that I want to put together. And what I realized, and you of all people will understand this more than anybody. When I got sober, I wanted to run away from every part of who I used to be. I hated that guy. The upset divorce guy, the guy that hated his job. And I ran as fast as I could. And I ran as hard as I could, and I burned myself out on many occasions. And I had an old client who I coached who I hadn't seen in 15 years. And I was mentioning about my old drunk self when I was like 22. He worked with me when I was then. It's like, man, I fucking hated that guy. And he's like, dude, I kind of like that guy. He's a really good guy. And I realized that the true way that we heal completely and wholly is we have to circle back and stop running from the addiction personality and love that guy fully. Faults of all, right? And what you're talking about with this joy thing is the difference between joy of emotion and just joy in general. Who doesn't want their business to be successful? Everybody does. That's why we get up every morning. But it's not going to change my day-to-day, whether or not the business goes up $1 million this year or $1 million the next year. You're saying that I'm going to carry this like excitement and joy for myself. And if these big thing comes, they come, but I'm not going to let it dictate the peaks and valleys of my life. Is that what you're kind of stating here?
Yeah. Well, like I was giddy after that call because literally it was like lagniappe is a Cajun word for a little something extra. It's like when you order 12 beignets and you get 13. This was lagniappe. I was excited to meet and for the call because it was an interesting conversation we were going to have. But then to have this additional relationship established, which who knows where it could lead.
Sure.
The thing I will say though that probably became ultra clear to me the last 12 months is that my joy is not situational, but during the robustness and during it seemed like the days of many doors, and many of them were closing or many of them were stuck or creaky, that kind of thing, I did have to verify, was this still my calling? Were the doors difficult because that's not, frankly, what God has for me now?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, was I attacking the wrong doors, or was it just the doors are what they are, but you're still in the right room, you're still in the right path, you're still in the hallway, whatever analogy you want to use. And for me, it was it has been a year of clarity of affirming not only am I on the right path, but I need to lean into some doors a little more assertively, and I need to ignore some other doors. And I'll tell you, two epiphanies I had in October were, one, after running my own marketing and branding firm for 20 years, that there was no way I wanted to run it the next 5 years the way I'd run it the last 5 years. Okay? That at my age and where I am with what I feel like God's calling me to do, we're going to have to operate it, run it, build it differently. And what has happened is my B2I team has shown up in ways unimaginable, in little ways and big ways. And we are building an enterprise together versus Ed's running an own business as an entrepreneur. So that is awesome. Okay. And I'm going to keep going after those doors with them and open them for them and all that. The other thing is I'm starting another enterprise around my book and coaching and consulting and literally helping brands be all they can be through the way they serve each other. And so we're literally building another enterprise, a whole nother company, if you will, for that. And I realized that for the last 4 years, I've been trying to build that company the way I built B2Y as a solo entrepreneur 20 years ago. I don't want to be a solo entrepreneur right now at this stage in life. So I had to relook at how I'm going to build this new venture, and I'm doing it in a 20-year informed way versus the habit of how I've typically built new businesses. And that creates joy because I have peace of mind and clarity.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is something smacked me in the face, is when you're creating something, which we're building this podcast out, which is a new thing, and then you have my one that's been going on for 600 episodes, and then you buy a business that's been around for 22 years, the owner's been in the space for 50 years, and now we're launching a separate business on the side that's coming from scratch.
Yep.
It takes two different people. It takes two different energies. Startup is fight, David Goggins, blah. And then the business that's been around forever is like, hey man, leave me alone. Like, we know what we're supposed to do. The guys that work in that business are, 30 years older than me. They've been doing it for 50 years. They're like, we don't need the rah-rah speeches. Feed us leads. Let us go to work. Let us serve the community. Yep. You can't, the kind of premises is like something I've been working on through like working with coaches is like the vehicle changes, but the driver doesn't.
Yeah.
Like I'm still me.
Well, the driver doesn't change, but the driver must change though too.
There you go.
I mean, you've got to show up in the way that is demanded for the opportunity of the car you're in. Mm-hmm. So what is interesting about this is
I know.
that did you see that just pop up?
I have no idea how that works, but
it's AI. I went like that or something, and anyway, we'll see if that happens again. But anyway, using your analogy and my analogy, mixing them, is I realized of where I was in the first half of the year of last year and where I was in the second half of the year is I was confused about what rooms I was in and what doors I was in. I was trying to just attack all the doors, you know what I mean? And as a leader, if we don't have clarity in the vision and the intention and the calling, then we can create a whole lot of angst for ourselves, for our team, for our enterprise, for our investors, whoever. And so I think one of the things that has been beautiful about the last 3 or 4 months of the robustness has been incredible clarity of I'm in this room and these are my doors.
Sure. And
these aren't.
Yes.
And some of these doors I'm going to say this out loud, I can't bust through by myself.
Yes.
And that is not our natural response as driven entrepreneurs.
I'm fascinated these days with like the labels and the vehicles that we do society to make people feel like a certain way, like addiction is this thing and it's this vehicle, alcoholism, and we're going to try to fix it from the front, but really the problem's at the core, right? And what I mean by that is everything means everything. How many team members right now do you have at your company?
11.
Okay, so you have 11. I've maybe met one or two, maybe, through brief interactions, if not a couple minutes to do whatever, okay?
You mean my handlers, yes.
Yeah, your handlers. I have not met those people, but I literally could describe them with 30 adjectives about who they are right now, and I don't even need to meet them. Okay, you ready to go? You ready?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm going to go. So not only are they driven people, they're self-motivated, okay, first of all, but they laugh a lot, okay? They find the joy in the small things. They love a good sunrise, but they love the most is a happy hour with friends where they can talk about all the fun stuff they're doing. They love their clients from soup to nuts, even the ones that upset them a little bit, because they love the challenge of changing them, okay? So tell me why I can call that out. And I know, tell me why. Because I know who you are.
Wow.
And you only attract what you are.
Wow.
And so because that's the case, you're going to attract those people. And the ones that aren't them and aren't you and what you care about, they're going to leave you because they don't fit.
Wow. You have no idea how right you are. I mean, that was remarkable.
And so I've been playing with these things, right? I can read handwriting. So I can ask 8 questions and I can read it. And I can tell you how I'm going to coach them for the next 6 months. I don't even need to speak to them. Because what I've found is that we believe we create obstacles in our mind that we're all so different. And what we really are is all searching for one thing and one thing only. It's to be seen.
Yeah.
And does my work provide me something that I want to show up and do every day? And every time, and I'm saying this to you on purpose, on camera, every time I speak to you, every time I talk to you, every time I have an interaction with you, I'm better for it. Not only do I leave whole, let me tell you something, everybody. And all these people that I've helped through addiction and divorce and leaving their jobs and all these things is because the man that's sitting right here.
Yeah.
I was leaving California. I called you when I was just starting my coaching business and I didn't know where I was going. And you were the first marketing guy I met. And you said something to me that changed my life. And you probably don't even remember what you said. I was telling you my business and you go, hey, that's great, but who cares? They go, there's a million coaches out of there. What is going to define you being greater than just being one of them? And I sat with that question for like a week because I said, okay, this is not a business that I can just haphazardly walk through the thing. I have to know why I do this. I have to ask the questions of myself then I embark on this very heavy journey, right? And I'm forever grateful to you for asking the questions that needed to be asked.
Wow. So how many lives do you think you've touched since then?
Well, you ready? So between the podcast, I've got 125,000 downloads. I've coached 14 to 10 people a week for almost 5 years. I've spoken a couple times. I'm going to write a book. So who knows? I mean, who knows,
Wow.
but I think at the end of the day, the only thing that matters anything is that I am present and able to help the person in front of me. And here's the bigger issue.
Wow.
Well, here's the bigger issue.
Well,
the person that needs help right now, that's on the journey right now, is me.
Yeah.
To love myself completely.
Yeah. Well, wow. You talked about running away from the person we once were, and I got to tell you, I believe that reality, that dynamic exists in maybe 90% of humans, maybe 100%. Mm-hmm. And Alcohol just happened to be our enabler
Yeah.
or our disabler. But there was something with both of us, there was something way more than just alcohol. That was a response, And for me, it was one of the things was the inability to find peace of mind without a drink. I had become so conditioned that anxiety, stress, worry, whatever, lack of peace of mind. Well, I could just ignore that tension because, I have a glass of wine when I get home or we're going out to dinner or whatever, And so that was a rudish deal. You talked about wanting to run away from that person. The deal is you're the person today for everything that has happened in your life, not just what's happened since you stopped drinking. Let me think how I can share this. Someone I know made a similar decision like us, stopped drinking, had almost 2 years and had a really rough 7 days, which included him consuming alcohol. And we both have probably been with people in those situations, and you never know exactly where it's going to end up. But it was 7 days. He realized that those were not the doors he needed to be going through. He self-corrected, and just recently would have been his 2 years of sobriety, except for 7 days. And so my first question to him when he pointed it out to me was, how does that make you feel? And I was worried his response would be shame, guilt. I can't believe I blew it. And his response was, I'm thankful for all this occurred. I just hope it doesn't occur that way again. And what I shared with him was that, and I knew the number when I did it. Let's see, 360 would be 720, 730, 731. So I said, basically, in 731 days, you've had 724 days of sobriety. Do the 7 really matter?
Yes.
Forget the chip. They matter, but they do not. Why do 7 days define the 731 days? But how many times in our life do we do that? A 3-day event cobbles us for 12 months versus going, hey, this is what happened. This is what it is. Move on. Do better. Reset. Choose a different door. So, I don't want to wallow in the past. I don't want to wallow in the past mistakes I made. I don't want to ignore them. But those mistakes, no matter how present they were not defining the whole thing. They were not defining my whole me. So why erase everything that happened before you stop drinking or whatever?
Yes. Totally. And could I be the spouse and the partner that I need to be for my fiance and my future wife and our kids if I wasn't married for 13 years? No.
Yeah.
No chance. Right.
Yeah.
And so we're spending our time and I'm, this conversation, marketing, whatever you want, boring, but what I hope that this podcast brings, right. And people ask me all the time, like, why, how did they talk you into doing the podcast for Lead Hub and everything? I said, because have you met them? Have you met them? Have you met Aaron, Ryan, and Ben, and Dennis, and Brendan, and Travis, and all the people that work on these are the best humans I've ever met in my entire life. Yeah. They care about their community. They care about the people that work underneath their umbrella. And so if they want to get a message out there where we're inspiring business owners who are a lot of them who are just dying from the stress of leading their people and having to do everything on their own, Ed and I are sitting here telling you that, the success that exists in our life is only because people cared about us.
Yep.
Our employees show up every day and care about the same mission. And that's the only way that we can scale and live a happy life. I mean, you got investments, you have businesses, you have a podcast, you have books. Like, it'd be really hard to do all that on your own. And
no matter how hard I tried.
But in order to do that, you have to get comfortable with yourself. You have to ask yourself questions. You have to you have to inspire, you have to grow. And that's what this thing is like we've created this thing where there's a goalpost and we think that's like the thing. And it's like, dude, it's not the thing. The goalpost is never the thing. And if you need metrics to keep you engaged, that's fine. But I believe that intentionality is everything. So if your intention is that you want to show up day in and day out and you want to get better and you want to create space where everybody in the office is winning. You know what's an amazing question? I wrote this on Twitter the other day. Do you want to know how you change somebody's life? It's really simple. We make it very complicated. Okay, here's the scenario. You say, hey, how was your day? You deflect with some bullshit and you say, oh, it's a great day, because that's what people do. They can a subconscious response. And you say, no. Hey, how are you doing? And you look intently at them. That right there could change the world.
Yep.
Because we're so. I have a guy that works for me. He did not grow up with a father. He is raised in the country, and all that stuff. I was 3 weeks into managing the place, and his grandfather passed away. Nobody knew. I didn't even know. He is exactly what I described. You would not think. And I say, hey man, how are you doing today? And I could tell something was like not right. And he reached over and bear hugged me like I've never been hugged before in my entire life. It felt like this 26-year-old kid and hadn't had a hug his entire childhood.
Wow.
And to this day, he's never done anything like that again. But I was like, oh, wow. This is like by me just saying like, hey, how are you? This is what he needed, right? And so how many times as a business owner are we rushing through our day? Are we rushing through our schedule and we're not creating impactful moments for our employees or our customers where they're really wanting just that extra little touch of intentionality to ask the questions that they're looking for?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, as you're talking, it made me think about, the whole intentionality, and, 2023 was a transformative year for B2I, a lot of growing. We implemented EOS, rapid fire EOS, got a lot more clarity around our roles, accountabilities, what we're really trying to build. Feel like we're at a stage where the team is as well aligned as we've ever been. And so we did a 2024 kickoff. We had this little card that the team had created, and it showed like the 5 buckets of revenue, what our goals were, and that kind of stuff. And it was powerful. I mean, we really are like all aligning together and everything. And I'm about to turn 57 years old. I had this business for 20 years. My number one driver is I want cash flow peace of mind. It's not about trying to get every single penny of profit out of every single thing I do. Sure. I mean, we got to provide, and I want to be a good steward. But, my driver has not been, I want to build this into a $100 million enterprise with 1,000 employees. It's never been about like the size of the enterprise. It's really been about impact. And so we figured out if we had this many clients and had this many brand mapping sessions, and we did all this, and we did this many videos and all that kind of stuff, we figured out what it would build to, basically. You know what I mean? So there's a revenue outcome because we are being paid for our services. Okay. So, and I walked to that meeting like as energized again. It was that transition from robust to like game on. I don't know what the transition to, but it was feeling good and everything. And the next morning, but I got home that night. There was something that was unsettled about it. And I started this thing, which really resonates with me when people do it for me, is randomly just leaving handwritten notes on the team's desk from time to time. It's not like I don't put it in my calendar or that kind of stuff. It just from time to time. And it's like, you know what? I feel like there's something that I need to share with the team. And so I came in the office early before anyone got in. And I literally sat at my desk. And I'm like, okay, God, what is it? Like literally had my little Sharpie marker in my pad. And what is it? And what it was I needed to have context for all that we were trying to accomplish. And what I wrote down, what I felt led to write down, is God is calling us to serve more people better. And I realized that is really what that was the commonality of the doors that were opening.
Mm-hmm.
The doors that were opening were doors that were enabling us to serve each other better as a team. For me to serve my family or my dying dad better, or my siblings that are the doors of seeing our team members grow and really stretch themselves given planned and unplanned circumstances. The connections with new potential clients, things like this that were like totally like out of the blue. Like you're doing this podcast with Lead Hub, just all this stuff. And so the commonality was, okay, this is going to enable us to serve more people better. This conversation today, one of the reasons I was giddy about it was this conversation not only led to the opportunity of maybe 3, 4, 5 different projects, but that would enable us to serve more people better because we could do it with one general client versus having 5 different clients. You know what I mean? Just all that kind of stuff. And so I say all that to say is that given the robustness of the years most of us have experienced, and maybe, as we talked about, still in the middle of it, is I have found, and this is so simple, and it's just like not accepting like, how are you today? Fine. Is why does this matter to me, and why does this matter to the world?
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't matter to you or the world, maybe that's not the right door today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for me, some of the best things that have happened the last year is having clarity around this door is like needs to be ignored, or this door needs to be locked, or this door needs to be avoided. So
I love it. When I was in Wimberley before I moved up to Pennsylvania a year ago, I was knew what I was embarking on when you're buying businesses and you're in the private equity world and I'd have multiple employees. And I had some real conversations with, you got a good coaching business. You don't need to do this. Like you really don't need to do this, but your kind of why is huge impact and create jobs, and all that stuff. And so I sat with it for like a month, and I would just walk every morning, and I didn't understand if I was going to do it or not. I really didn't. And something hit me one morning, and it kind of all made sense. And I realized that the reason that I couldn't see the vision for the next couple of years is that the mountain was too small.
Huh.
And so I made a promise to myself that for the rest of my life from 40 on, that I would only run races I can't win.
Wow.
And so I realized this is why I like cycling so much. Yeah. Because you can't win. You could always be faster. You could always go longer. You could always help more people. That's my mentality, right? And so, but the problem is that's, you have to like put boundaries around that because you'll just give, right? You'll just give and give and give and give, and then you have nothing left, right? And then moreover, right? But what's interesting about what you were talking about helping more people and impacting, like, I believe, and this is a conversation I have because I help clients with some marketing. I believe that marketing and branding for clients and customers and corporations are the most misunderstood businesses practice in the world. Okay. And let me break it out to you why. Marketing is the first thing to get crapped on when business isn't doing bad, right? Oh, I don't have any leads. You don't know what you're talking about. Blah, 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 blah. You didn't make this like magical wizard wand for me, and you didn't do this whole thing, and blah, blah, blah. And you didn't dance and make the rain go and all these stupid things, right? Because they didn't put their own soul in their brand, right? And it needs to be a marry of a partnership to here's the ideas, but here's me owning and cloaking myself in my brand. And so I'm representing the overall factor, like when we took over and rebranded the company, was who's this shyster? He's really young. I don't trust him. 2, maybe he knows what he's talking about. I'm never going to wear an item of clothing that says the name of the company on it. Okay. Well, hold on. We start attracting our friends to come work here because maybe he means what he says he means. Okay. Hey, can I get some hats, boss? Can I get some shirts? Can I wear it out when I'm out on Saturday? Right? It's not just about marketing. It's who are you outside of work, and we respect the company. And I'm in a place where it's 15 degrees today. And if the 84-year-old grandmother doesn't have heat, she could die. Like I'm being real, and I'm not trying to be hyper. So we're not installing ACs. We're serving the community. Yeah. And so the brand has to and feel that. And I think I think it's amazing that marketers put up with I'll speak for you because you can't put up with being tossed aside as the first thing to go when said thing is not working out the way they wanted, right? Yeah. Because say it out loud. I, as a marketing company, wake up every day. They're just laughing on the side right now. They're loving this. So I wake up every day hoping that your company fails. That's why I market for you. Say it out loud. It's like I wake up every day making sure you don't have heat in your home so I can go to bed at night. When you say it like that, it's ridiculous, right? And so how do you, as an employer and as somebody that services very large customers a lot of times, how do you juggle that kind of like resistance, for lack of a better word, of like the tiptoe line of like serving the client, but also like making sure they understand the value you bring to the table?
How much time do we have?
As long as you need.
So the way I say the same dynamic is, when sales are bad, it's marketing's fault. And when sales are good, it's because you got a great sales team. Part of it is just thick skin. I mean, like literally, as there's this fallacy that every single marketing activity can be tracked and that you can actually apply a metric to it, and you can actually draw a direct line between what actually drove the customer to buy, and that's all bullshit. Some of it is indicative. They're leading indicators. You can look for cues. You can look for indices. But unless you literally talk to every customer and understand all the things that may have occurred to lead them to buy, you have no idea. So it's making educated guess and it's bringing wisdom to it.
Yep.
For us, the way we found it is that because we serve other clients, we're not supporting an in-house brand. If the client or prospective client or the existing client becomes the type of person who doesn't believe in the principle of branding and marketing, just inherently believe this important part of their business. I'm not saying they're spending a ton of money, but if they don't believe in it, we don't work with them. Mm-hmm. I mean, we tried that route, and our mission is not to convince you that marketing works. Mm-hmm. Our mission is to show you how marketing can work.
Yep. And
how that your brand can be distinct and unique and valuable to the people you serve. Most importantly, your team, so that they can serve your customers best. And so, the other thing is that, and again, I'm not afraid to be candid, is that the worst part of this relationship of client and vendor, client agency, vendor, however they look at it, is that if you're just tired of working with us, just tell us. You don't have to try to create facts that show it's not working. I mean, sure. There's an evolution to almost all relationships, right? And so the only time it gets really difficult for me on behalf of my team is that when a client, they want to hire a marketing person versus use us, or they have a friend that opens a marketing agency, or they're just, it's run as 3 or 4 year course. They want fresh brain power. You know what I mean? But don't feel like you have to come up with a list of 10 things that didn't work to kind of justify it. Let's just say, hey, we're moving on. So, but the reality is that that one thing I have learned in 30 some years of working, almost 40, is that with almost every single thing except for a hot 3-day promotion or a hot 7-day sale, there's momentum. and you're either growing your business or you're contracting your business. And the problem is the things we do today, you can't be guaranteed what it's going to do 3 months from now. So you better have some educated guess. And before you stop doing something, you better be pretty convinced it's not working.
Yes.
Because, oh my gosh, we got to save $10,000. Let's just cut this. Well, what risk did you just introduce to your company, even though it does preserve cash? So
totally.
That was good. Like I said, I've got a lot of opinions on that.
There's the second episode. As you look out, it's February, it's middle of February, we recorded this, and you have, 11 and a half months left in the year. What is the thing, kind of the theme, the most exciting thing that you're thinking about headed into the rest of the year?
For us or
for you and your business? Yeah.
Wow. So, for about the last 9 months, we have always been we're not an agency. We're really a marketing department for hire. B2I Creative is the company's name. And really before COVID, most of our relationships were ongoing 12-month contracted services, a clear marketing plan, objectives, budgets, that kind of stuff. And for most of our clients, business is just not that stable right now. And so we don't spend a lot of time doing 12-month plans. We have milestones and objectives, but we really is more quarterly, okay? And we never sold one-off services. So you wouldn't search for us for logo design or search for us for websites. We are a marketing branding firm. But what we realize is that our superpower is brand strategy, and that is helping businesses truly understand who they really are or who they really could be if they were just a little more deliberate about it. So we have a proprietary B2I brand mapping process. It is a one-off. It can run between $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000, depending on the complexity of it. But we can bring a new business, a business that has hit that first big hurdle, typically about 18 months after launch, or a business that's truly primed to scale. And in a 30 to 45-day process, we can help refine, harvest, and define a significant brand clarity, a significant brand strategy for how you tell your story, and exactly what you talked about. So what? You're another coach. We can help you define your so what.
Yeah.
And it doesn't involve design. It's all words. It is literally the verbal storytelling strategy of how you talk about your brand. And the byproduct of that is what are the 5 most important things you can say about your enterprise, as well as what are your 5 fastest paths to cash. And we have multiple clients engaging us for that brilliance, for that expertise, and they may take it to their own team and go do it themselves. They may have another agency they work with, or they may say, hey, they need our help in executing it. But it is amazing to me because I'm that person. I was there 9 months ago at this incredible enterprise, but we had lost sight of what our true distinction was. And so guess what we did? We took ourselves through our own process. And guess what it did?
Yeah.
It provided clarity. It helped us reduce duplication and redundancies. It helped us set our priorities on how we can serve more people better. And we had our best month in 15 months in January.
Yeah. I tell business owners all the time. When's the last time you experienced your business?
Yeah. I mean, if your organization doesn't say something, when people say, oh, B2I Creative, what do y'all do? If you have 10 or 100 people and they all give 10 to 100 different answers to that, you need help. You're leaving money on the table. You're leaving relationships on the table because you are confusing the people you most want to serve. So one of our greatest gifts is enabling brands to have brand clarity. And so we, it's not that I share too much. I share everything. So it's like I had someone through EO want to meet with me yesterday, and we were just having coffee. She's like, what do we do? And I described it. I wasn't trying to sell her on it. I just described it. She said, oh, my gosh, that's exactly what we need. Can we do that next week? I mean, when someone wants to buy your product after a 5-minute conversation, you got a pretty good product. So we got a pretty good product there. So the team is fully activated in how can we serve as many more people better through that.
So I'm going to leave us out here And I'm mainly talking to your team that's standing off to the side because I want it recorded. Maybe they'll clip it and they'll play it for you over and over again. Ed,
Okay, cool.
you are one of the most charismatic humans I've ever met in my life. You leave me happy. You have the biggest heart I've ever met. But in order for you to enjoy the rest of your years in your company, you have to let these amazing humans that are standing off to the side take the ball and run with it. Because I know you have the best team in the world. And you have to ask yourself on a daily basis, should I be doing this? At all times.
Yep. You're exactly right.
A lot of time at that lake, young man. All right? If they want to find out more about you, they want to track down your company, how would they do that?
Yeah, so if you need brand strategy help understanding like really what your story is, you can go to btycreative.com. B as in bold, T as in true, Y as in you. Be bold, be true, be you. btycreative.com. And you can find information on our brand mapping process. There's a link there that you can actually request a call. We can sit down with you, talk about like how our brand mapping process works. Maybe it works for you. Maybe it's what you need. Maybe it's not. If you don't need it, we don't want to do it for you. And then if you want to learn a little bit more about me and just kind of my background and my joy and the book and the keynote and all that kind of stuff, you can go to edhowie.com and you can learn more about something we didn't even talk about, which is the wonder of woo.
Yeah.
And that
Episode
is the
2.
fact that your employees and your customers and your prospects, every single thing you're doing is either wooing or pooing them. And you talked about intentionality. I guarantee you every business can intentionally woo more and poo less if you just think about it and do something about it. And we can help you address that as well.
I love it. Guys, make sure you go check out that book, that podcast. Send it around to a friend that'll get some value from it, and we'll see you next time, guys. Folks, if you made it to the end of the episode, I'm sure you found some value with what you're listening to. If you could send this to a friend, rate us and review us, share us around. The more that you share us, the more that we can share content with you. Thank you all so much for your time and listening, and we'll see you next time.